Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Truth Bombs with Roxy and Shannon. How are you today, Shannon?
I am very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. How was your Labor Day weekend?
Pretty decent. It was fairly chill, just had to work a little bit, but I know that's kind of the opposite of Labor Day, but hey,
You do what you gotta do.
yeah, you do what you gotta do.
Hello, giggles and laughs. Hello, Mike. Mike, you were always dead on the money, honey. You were like in the door, straight out the gate. We love you so much. Um,
Yay!
I don't know about you, but the weather was beautiful here all weekend. We actually had a 60-degree morning this morning. So that was
Wow.
that was nice because we have been living in a whole different form of Hades here for about 3 months in the South. I don't know about you, but you could cut the humidity with a knife.
Yeah, out here is it's been extremely bizarre. We're used to a lot of heat in the summer. It's usually dry heat, although in the last 5 or so years, probably more, it's been more and more humid than normal. So, but this year we've had weird cool downs that we've never had. And this whole weekend was just absolutely scorching, melting, awful. And then today I woke up to a windstorm and everything very just kind of dark and cloudy and windy. So I don't know. California can't figure it out. It doesn't understand weather anymore. I'm just
Well,
at that conclusion.
we have a lot of people that have moved down here in the South from up north. Well, we call up north north of the Mason Dixon line when you live down here in the South. And you have a lot of people who have never are not accustomed to humidity and mosquitoes.
Yeah.
We have
That would be
mosquitoes
Californians.
here that are the size of quarters. Like, I
Oh,
literally
heck
had a
no.
mosquito in my house so big the other night, I had to kill it with a shoe.
Oh, gosh, no.
Like,
No,
you can hear
no.
most time you smack a mosquito, it's just like a gnat or something. You do it. No, these things crunch.
I mean, we have mosquitoes, but not to that extent, you
Girl.
know?
And we live right here on Hurricane Alley. Hey, Cash, I see you, the man from Michigan. We we have mosquitoes so big here. Like, I have O negative blood. I don't know what it is about O negative blood, but they really like O negative blood. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a buffet. My daughter's house is close enough I could, well, I don't know, I'm getting old, but I could probably throw a tennis ball and hold, hit it. From my house to her house, you don't slow down. If you're not sprayed down in bug spray or like a beekeeper suit, you make a beeline from house to house because when we've had storms and then you get hurricanes come in and then your rivers start backing up. When the rivers back up, the swamp backs up and then the mosquitoes breed. But yeah,
You
it's
know,
it's horrible.
that's interesting that you mentioned, though, of course, the blood type thing, because here on the West Coast, the mosquitoes out here absolutely love my husband and my daughter, and they share the same blood type, but they don't really mess with me and my son very much. But when we went out to Florida years ago, they absolutely devoured me and my son, but didn't touch my daughter or my husband. So they have different tastes apparently on the different sides of the coast.
Yeah, and I probably should have checked that mosquito for the model number and see what agency
Right.
it come from because that was a
Right.
big mosquito. Like,
Right.
mosquitoes are supposed to be small. Like, you smack a mosquito, and it bites you on the arm, it just leaves a little red dot where you smack the blood out of it.
Right.
No, these sapsuckers leave a stain on the wall.
Oh,
Like,
gross.
I picked up my flip flop and smacked this mosquito that was as big as a quarter, and I heard it crunch when the shoe hit him.
No, no, no,
So I
no.
probably should have just captured him and put him in a jar. I think I'll do that next time. I'm gonna start
Yeah.
catching I'm gonna start catching skaters in a jar.
Hey, you know what?
See if I
That's
can trace it
okay.
back to one of them agencies.
More than
But we didn't come
likely.
on here and talk about skaters today, folks. But I'm glad. I hope everybody had a good Labor Day weekend. It was nice to have a 3 day stretch of peace and quiet for a while. I know not everybody had it, but a few did. So, but we just wanted to come on and check in with everybody, see what rabbit hole you've been down, Shannon. I've been down several this weekend. Would you like to start? Is there any rabbit hole in particular that has got your attention?
Oh my gosh, in particular, I've been down so many lately. That's a like which one really do let me take a minute to kind of think about that
Okay,
while
well, you think about
you
which one you want to
process
focus
that.
on.
Yeah. I gotta kind of look at my history here and just kind of go, oh yeah, that one's it. So, I mean, I've
Not
still there's still I'm still kind of paying attention to the Emmanuel Haro case too. So I've been half on that and then half in other rabbit holes. So
Well, I have tried to be very conservative about how much screen time I'm getting in lately to not get on there and just doom scroll. Because if you get on TikTok or Facebook Reels or whatever it is, and if you watch something too long or you watch it multiple times, like the next 50 videos are about the same thing. I call it doom scrolling because it'll just make you nervous and fearful. And we all know that's what they're after, is to make us
oh, of
fearful. And we're not
course.
going to allow that. So, I consciously during the weekend tried to put my phone down as much as I could. But
Yeah.
one of the things I fell into was looking at anytime we see these agendas that they're pushing, whether it be transhuman, transgender, whatever it is, there is a reason. They always take the easiest avenue they can take to get the most produced outcome out of things. So I keep asking myself, why are you wanting all these young children to be transgender or gender neutral or gender fluid or whatever you want to call it? So I went back to the Bible. I said, because I ask these stupid questions sometimes. I ask, was there anybody in the Bible that was mentioned that was gender neutral or gender fluid or did not have a gender? Well, the only thing you come up with is angels and demons. And we know that the people that are trying to talk these 7-year-olds into being transgender or gender fluid are not angels. So that only leaves us one thing. And if you look at it from a demonic standpoint, that it is, from my understanding, what I can research and my knowledge from that, this is a theory that if you take a child or a young adult or whoever and make them unsure of who they are or what their gender is, it opens the door for demon possession.
Yes, that is one very important aspect to that because this is I just kind of wanted to bring this up because when people think of the word sacrifice, right, in religious means, especially in dealing in the demonic, most people automatically go to blood sacrifice, death, something to do along with that kind of thing. But there is another type of sacrifice in the occult and in this type of demonic realm where you become an idol alongside your god. You worship your god and give your child up to god, that god, in the likeness and image of that god. So that means at birth or while they are still very young, they automatically are sacrificing their child to their God by turning them into the idol of that God. If that makes sense. So that is a form of sacrifice. And
It does.
when we see a lot of these all these years that we've had this confusion in front of our face where they're showing people in one way, but they're not truly that way. like how we've discussed like Marilyn Monroe and things along those lines, because this goes way back, or the first wives, um, the first ladies in American history. This goes way back. I mean, when we think of priests from the Catholic religion, they're actually based off of priests back in ancient times, and Babylon and things along those lines, where they would be castrated and then turned into the idol of their goddess, of their god, of who they worshiped. And they are, of course, today known as eunuchs, that kind of thing. But that's where the basis of the word priest comes from this whole practice of changing your gender to worship your god or goddess, or the culmination of both.
Well, my question then becomes, as an adult, I'm sorry, and I may offend some for this, and if I do, I apologize. That is not my intent. If my child, I have two, they're 30 now, but if one of them had come to me in elementary school, middle school, probably even early high school, had come to me and said they were the wrong gender, we're going to go get some counseling. We're going to go talk to somebody. We're not going to a doctor to start chopping off body parts. That's abuse to me. You are giving the power to a child who does not have the legal right to drive, drink, or serve in the military. The government, they say that children of that age are not of sound mind to make those decisions. It has been a consensus that, the 16, 18, 21. I am old enough with grown children and two grandchildren and been through a divorce and cancer and all kinds of stuff to know that even at 30 years old, I don't think you don't have the wisdom to make that decision. So, how could a parent, like I've seen cases, especially over in California,
Yep.
where parents, there was one in particular, a little boy, his mom told him he was a girl. Well, the parents are divorced, so the mom takes the kid and hauls tail to California where they won't fight her changing that 7-year old's gender to a little girl.
Yep.
They are going to physically change this little 7-year-old boy into a little girl. And what is that going to do to him in 10 or 12, 15 years when he figures out there's so many people that are coming out now that did this within the past 10 years and are so messed up from it? They will be messed up the rest of their life. That's child abuse. Plain and
Here,
simple, it's child abuse.
here's the main thing to think about. A child in various stages of development, until they hit a certain stage in puberty, they have no true concept or a thought process or idea of sexual orientation. If they don't even, even up to a certain age, don't even have a true concept of inanimate objects to animate objects, they still have a sense of putting animation through their imagination within things. There is a certain level of innocence where these things aren't even a thought, and so these things have been influenced upon the children, whether through the parents, whether through just the world in itself and the social construct we live in. But this is something that has been placed as an idea inside that child's mind. So when they're saying, I want to be this, or I am confused, it is something that has been put into their mind to be confused about, because they don't have a sense of that just yet, that in their stages of development.
Well,
So the parents who are pushing this upon their kids, usually in the guise of tolerance or things along those lines, who have obviously been brainwashed and manipulated, and you know it's a form of trauma based mind control that they've dealt with all, growing up in their programming. And so they're in a form giving sacrifice to their God that they are not even aware that they worship.
Well, see, I'm a child of Gen X, and my dad, which I do understand, my dad was a little different than other daddies. Mine was a mechanic. I was always in the shop with him. I lost my dad in 2015. It's been 10 years, so I was 40 when my dad passed. The last voicemail I have from my dad says, "Hey, son, how about give me a call?" Son, my
Hmm.
dad, until the day I let my dad knew I was a girl, I was married, I had children. He knew I was his daughter. But up until I was to the point that I had developed like a girl, my dad never treated me any different from a girl or a boy. I was kind of gender neutral.
Hmm.
But I think a portion of that was because my dad had always said, there's nothing that you can't do because you're a girl.
Right.
There's nothing you can't do because you're not a boy. But that had a lot to do with racing go-karts and drag racing, and he never told me you can't do that because you're a girl. He never
Right.
looked at me as a girl. It didn't confuse me. I didn't wonder who I was. And so I just it I'm mind boggled how a parent that loves a child, a mother especially. I understand that a relationship, not all, but a lot of the times, the relationship between a mother and child and a father and child is different. Not saying that one loves more or less. I'm not saying that. The woman's position in a motherly role is to nurture and guide. A father's role is to teach respect and loyalty and how to be a man. I honestly, and when I go back and I think about, okay, World War II, they put all the women to work in factories because all of this, and then they started selling this drink. See, back in the 40s and 50s, and I've talked with someone who's 80 years old. Um, in the 50s, when she first got married, she was young. I think she was like 18. They lived with his parents for a while until they got on his feet, and then they built him a house and they moved on from there. It was very customary for a newly married couple to move in with his parents or her parents, until they got their things together and got on their feet. Well, and then you see that everybody needs to have a house with a picket fence and 2.5 kids. When you go from that to, well, the woman needs right, let burn her bra. She needs to have an education and a career and everything else. So when she has all of this, hang on one second.
Okay.
My daughter's leaving. Love you. Sorry, she's going on duty.
That's
But
fine.
when you they've done everything within their power to break the family unit, because you went from mothers that stayed at home and took care of their children, and most of them homeschooled their children. They didn't go to public school. To the woman needs to get a job. She needs to go to school. And they broke the family unit. Well, then they took it from taking the mother out of the household to now they've taken the father out of the household because there are so many single parent households. I mean, it's far and few between anymore to see family units that the mom and dad get married and live at least until the kids are, grown and gone.
Right. Well, that is Satan's, like, one of the main goals of Satan is to destroy the family unit, because that is God's construct, and there is so much power and love in a strong family unit. And you wonder why there has been such an attack and confusion on men, and why there are a lot of them that leave their families, and why women, in a sense, have then become too, like they've had to be both father and mother, and that's not something that's possible. And it just kind of continues on the cycle of things. And, a lot of children who have grown up in that environment, they have a lot more likelihood to get involved in gangs or crime, or themselves become a father or a mother in the same kind of situation, and the broken home continues. And that in itself is destroying so much of the power and love and the godliness within the human construct. And that's part of the plan, is to break that.
Well, and
I'm
and maybe a part that triggered me this morning on this whole breaking of the family and the household and the woman needs to, ladies, are we any better off after we burnt these bras? I mean,
no.
we're just not. We're not any better off since we burnt these bras.
It's really
Which
important to follow the money. And let me tell you, the whole women's movement thing was truly actually funded and created by gay men. So keep that in mind, just to
that
let you
that
know.
does not surprise me. Sadly, that does not surprise me in the least.
So truly,
But
it's not feminism. It's not anything to do with womanhood.
anti-feminism,
It's
yeah,
anti feminism.
it's anti-feminism. Maybe they were just jealous because they were men and they were still expected to go out and work because they weren't heterosexual. I don't know.
Well,
But
it's
I'm not
again, it's
I'm
all
not
about,
digging this. I want to unburn
right.
the bras. I want to go back to mom and dad are in the same household and the kids live there and the kids are growing up with values and they can stay at home with mom and she can educate them and teach them about life. I don't know how we're ever going to go back to that backwards. Part of that came this morning because I overslept by like 2.5 hours for school this morning. I was on duty to put the grandkids on the bus because my daughter's on night shift this week. And my granddaughter comes in there and she's like, Nanny, we're late. And I'm like, oh, I didn't plug my phone up. I get to the school. They were sick last week with, okay, my grandkids were sick and my nephew was sick. And they had all been together the previous weekend. The
Right.
nephew, this was kind of strange, everybody, all of a sudden spiked a fever. So did my grandson and granddaughter. 102, just out of the blue, bam, massive fever. Grandson had a sore throat. My daughter took him to the doctor. They said it wasn't strep. They thought it might be hand, foot, and mouth disease. It was going around daycares. Well, they
Mm-hmm.
don't go to a daycare, but they have a mutual, person that goes to a daycare. Well, then my nephew, he collapsed. Now we're talking about 10-year-old boys. He had a high fever
Yes.
and collapsed in the kitchen, and she rushed him to the doctor, and they said he did have strep throat. So one had strep, one said they didn't have strep, but all three of them were spiking 102 fevers.
Oh my goodness.
And it was just like to begin with, they were kind of sick on their stomach, and then their stomach was upset. And then it was just fevers and didn't feel good. And they complained of severe headaches when they had the fever.
Oh my goodness.
But the nephew complained of chest pains and then collapsed with a high fever. But anyway, when I take the grandkids to school this morning, I'm late, so I got to sign them in my pajamas
Mm-hmm.
and my hair up in a bun on top of my head, looking like I'm homeless. I come rolling up at the school, locked up the brakes, jumped out and took them in. I'm like, I'm sorry, we're late. I overslept. And she's like, oh, but do you have your excuse for last week? They missed 3 days. I said, no, their mom took them to the doctor. She may have forgot to send a note. Well, I need the note. You've only got 6 days to bring me a note. The state says you've only got 6 days.
Jeez.
Well, honey, calm down. I mean, are you gonna call out the National Guard? Because my daughter, who is on patrol, has not sent you a note today. I mean, she's out there protecting and serving. Can you give her a minute? It's kind of how I felt. But I'm
Right.
like, I'm kind of like, "Ooh, just breathe. Don't go off on this lady. It's not worth starting your day like this." So I'm like, nope, I'll let their mom know. She should send their note tomorrow. And then she kind of calmed down and she's like, well, she can write a note, with a parental excuse. We don't need a doctor excuse. We just need to know where they were at. Since when?
Yeah.
Since when is it the state's right? I mean, this is beginning to look a whole lot like a prison camp to me, and less like a public school.
Well, I see, that's interesting you bring that up. I know you watched the whole live with the president today, and
I watched
that
most of it. Yeah.
there was a whole segment where they bring up the whole school mass event situation.
Oh, I missed
And
that.
yes, and they asked if they were going to if they would ever consider having a National Guard um, soldier at each and every single school in the United States. And the president goes on to say, well, I don't think that's something we can consider, considering how many schools there are, basically. But he goes into saying we've even contemplated these whole security systems with these specific lockdown devices in the doors. But then if the police come to help rescue things, then they're locked out. And the whole conversation was just kind of odd. And I mean, the fact that that it was brought up, of the idea or contemplation of having a National Guardsman at every single school, or even creating more of a prison environment for these kids,
Okay,
was
listeners,
just kind of, yeah. What?
we got 31 of you out there right now, and I know you all live in various states. In South Carolina, we have what's called a school resource officer, which is a fully uniformed, bulletproof vest cop on duty at every one of our schools when the school is open.
Right.
I need answers. Do you guys have that? Do you have them over there, Shannon?
We sure do. There's
I
always
don't.
police officers present at every single school in our district. Every single one.
In 8 or 9 of the last school shootings, and I probably said that, and I shouldn't have said that word out loud, but were trans. As to whether those events were real or not, it was they were all trans. So I don't know, and I know we've talked about the Manson and the MK Ultra and Jason Bourne and people. So is the trans movement in children opening a new door due to trauma where they can do more programming? I mean,
Of
I don't
course.
know.
Of course. And this is all uh, everything in the media, materialist wise things too, like that you purchase, the new fads, the new shows that you're watching, all these things are steering your psychological mind into a certain mindset. And if you are not strong enough, or at least understand the symbolism and what the real agenda of it is, you are very open and susceptible to bringing in whatever demonic thing is within that. And I don't know if you've ever heard of John Todd. His
Uh-uh.
real name was Lance Collins. He came out in the late 70s and early 80s, really trying to explain the the way the music and film industry works, and how he had been brought up in a family of witches in an actual coven that
Yes, you
dealt
told me
with
about
the
him.
Rothschild. Yeah. So he
Barnaby.
brings
Yeah.
up, yes, he brings up that when he worked for what was called Zodiac Records at the time, which basically covered like many areas of the world in music in like the 60s and 70s. He worked for them, and he explained that they would actually perform rituals with the master copy of these songs to invoke demonic beings within this. So when you are listening to that music, you are opened and ready to receive the demonic myths, entities, or entity, whichever that is within that music that they have ritually placed within it. And that goes into every copy because it is in the master copy. And I found that to be a very interesting explanation that he gave. I mean, this is again back in the late 70s and early 80s that he's telling people this. We know more now about backmasking and, you know, objects carrying demonic spirits, you
Like
know,
them little
those
ugly
kinds of
dolls.
things, right? Like the little boo boos.
Little ugly doll. That's what I call them.
Right?
Little ugly dolls.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
granddaughter, she's got one, and I can't stand it. And I've told my daughter, I'm like, that thing is a demon doll.
You should
She's like,
just
no, it's mom. It's cute.
you should just
Listen, now
burn
this is also the same daughter that looked at me like I had horns growing in it when I told them at the
it.
schoolhouse
Right,
that dinosaurs were dragons. I
right.
told him all I simply told my grandson was I said, listen, on the way home we're gonna have this dinosaur talk because Nanny needs to tell you that dinosaurs are not dinosaurs, they were dragons. She's like, Mom, would you please stop saying all of that stuff? Whatever. I'm not lying. Go look it up.
Right. Thank you, remote viewer 57, which by the way, hi. Love you. He
Uh,
attached one of the John Todd links for
nice.
anybody who's interested in listening to his testimonies. They're quite powerful. And ironically, he of course disappeared. And last you heard, he was in a psych ward, and then now no one knows what's happened to him.
Yeah, that tends to happen. There was this
Hmm.
dude, he flew an airplane over this icy place. And I don't know if when he stopped on his way back, he's like, "Ooh, guess what I seen?" When he come back here and he got stateside, next thing you know, he was in a hospital and he jumped out of a window that didn't open. Yeah,
Interesting.
Mr. Bird. Look up Mr. Bird's death.
I shall. I shall do
Because when he
that.
gets back to Venezuela, Argentina area, he's like, "Oh, this is what I saw." He said a few things. It was run in their newspaper. There's printed proof of it in archives of what he said he saw. And then when he got back here, they said he had lost his mind. He ended up in a mental institution. I think it's within a couple of weeks he jumped out of a window that wouldn't open.
Hmm. How
Let's see who
very
else we got in the comments.
coincidental.
Your daughters think you're beyond help too, Trish. They'll come around.
Yes.
Hopefully, if they don't, just keep loving them. That's all you can do is love them through it. I came to a realization, right here within the past month or two, that I don't care if people look at me like I have sparklers hanging out of my ears. I don't care. You can look at me like I got horns or whatever. I just don't care anymore. I'm not going to be quiet because, and I actually have the TikTok pulled up. And when I listened to this, it made so much sense to me. And it's somebody who has been through a lot of trauma due to Hollywood, and was separated from his twin at birth. You know who I'm talking about? Shy. He has been through a lot of self-awareing after going through a lot of programming, but he talks about suffering. And if this is part of the suffering that we're supposed to endure to try to help other people wake up, so be it. It is what it is. I'm okay with that because Romans 5:3 tells you not only that, but we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. Suffering is a part of life. Suffering is what teaches you lessons. So if me saying out loud the truth and you look at me and I suffer because of it, you can't hurt my ego because I don't have one. I do my absolute best not to have an ego because I have learned through the telepathy tapes the best way to have a higher connection to source is to renounce all ego. Food, shelter, water. That's where I'm at in life. Food, shelter, water. Because in the beginning, God gave Adam a garden to work before the sin. And he told him it would be work that would make him happy. So this is my work and this makes me happy. And I'm happy to tell other people what I have discovered and what I think is the truth so that they can wake up. So if any of this brings any suffering upon me, so be it. It was what it was supposed to be.
In a way, I kind of believe, well, in a way, I truly do believe, not kind of, but that if there isn't some amount of suffering or difficulty in that path, then it truly isn't of God. Because the way to God, the way to Jesus, the way to heaven is that narrow path. It's not the broad path. The broad path is easy. It's everywhere. You can follow that easily, but that's only going to bring you more suffering truly in the end, even though you feel that it's bringing you somewhere in this world. But if you're not having some kind of spiritual battle, some kind of suffering, some kind of lesson to be learned, or way of refinement, then it more than likely is not of God. It is not the path that you're supposed to be taking.
And I have seen so many people that are, I guess we call them now, awakened, like we are. And it seems to me that a lot of awakened people seem to have a focus. Like, yes, they're awake to everything that's going on, and we're seeing through all of this, and we're digging through the lies, and we're really beginning to understand how all this works. But it seems like some of us have a particular focus. It's like thing after thing keeps connecting. Like mine seems to be Antarctica. I don't know why, but everything I look into connects me right back to Antarctica and World War II and all of that stuff. But in all of this, I started. Did I have the red carpet conversation with you the other day, or is that Daniel?
That was Daniel. I have not heard this.
Well, okay, there's a girl, the Voynich manuscript. She's trying to decode this thing. It's hundreds of years old, written in a language nobody could decipher. It's a code.
Right.
I kind of watch it on the side, and because some of them are much like us, they're very awakened and they're digging for truth. That just seems to be their thing that they're
Mm-hmm.
down as old books. And one of the points she had brought up in there a while back was that if you look at the Last Supper and a lot of other religious artwork, I'm talking about old, hundreds and hundreds of years old artwork, Da Vinci, Michelangelo, great artist of the time, stuff that has been preserved.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the color of the clothing, especially at the Last Supper and things like that. There's always red and blue. Well,
Mm-hmm.
in my notes, I understand and I go through it and I look at it and I realize that one represents femininity, one represents masculinity. And we're talking about the transgender and blurring and not having one. When you look at all this art and you see the red and the blue and the red and the blue, and you'll see it in churches. This all started because I wanted to know why all churches have red carpet. Down here in the South, when you walk into a church, most of them have red carpet.
Right.
Well, my brain went to, well, Vegas has red carpet. That's because red makes you stop. It's like a stop sign. It's a brain signal. So, but I'm like, well, why would a church have red carpet? Okay, then I go to the blood of Christ. I'm all down this rabbit hole, tumbling in all different directions. And then I stumbled across something. Purple, which everybody knows is my absolute favorite color in the world. I love purple.
Mm-hmm.
But red and blue make purple. The frequency tone of purple is 144,000, which is the highest frequency your body can have. Okay, monks that don't speak anymore, Tibetan monks that have taken a vow of silence and they sit and meditate 5 or 6 hours a day, that's what they vibrate at, like 144,000. I'm like, well, that's an odd number. Where do I know that number for? Well, everybody knows what 144,000 is. So is 144,000, we hear in the Bible that God will, when God comes back, he's got his 144,000 will be saved. What if that's not a body count? What if
It,
that's a soul frequency?
and it's also related to your DNA,
Yep.
because the two-stranded DNA with all the, letters that they associate
Is
with your code,
144.
it's 144. Yep. And
See,
it's
that's my
interesting.
current rabbit hole.
Right. And what's interesting too is there was that whole ceremony that the Queen of England did several years back where she lit up that light display where it showed the three-stranded DNA. Well,
Yep.
that is what we're talking about with the mark of the beast. Truly, I believe that is what is representation of the 144,000, because you cannot, if you do not have the original construct DNA of God and your genetics have been altered, like as in the whole story of Genesis in the beginning, why the flood ended up happening and all of that. When your genetics, your original signature that God gave you, is then altered, it is no longer at that number. Just throwing it out there.
Well, for reference, um, 5, 6 years ago, actually, 6 years ago, yesterday is kind of an anniversary for me. Um, I would have told you I was an atheist. I didn't know what I believed in. I, at that time, I was not awake at all. I had grown up in churches that were Pentecostal holiness or Baptist. My parents were not religious. They never went to church, never spoke about God. My dad had a mixed drink in his hand every day. And when things happened 6 years ago and I got divorced and I went on my own, for some reason, when that thing back in 2019 where we all got locked in the house, shortly after that, something flipped a switch in my brain and I started going down this road. I'm like, okay, I can't believe in nothing. I got to believe in something. But in order to believe in something, I need to know what the truth is. So after I've been down that journey for 5 years of trying to figure out what's what and what's the truth and what are they hiding from us, it's like every little piece of it, I tried to take. My first point was I tried to take physical, geological, location, history of events that supposedly happened in the Bible and commit them to, okay, here's a rock. I can see where this flood happened. You know what I'm saying? I
Mm-hmm.
needed hard evidence. Okay, well, this whole book ain't a lie. And then I go and look at other books. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, y'all all telling the same story. And then I had this dream, and it was like 10 people standing around a car accident, and each person tells their story, and everybody's story is different. And it made sense to me. That was the overlap of religion. I was not one that would have. I've watched The Exorcist, okay? 6 years ago, I would have told you somebody being possessed by demons. I'm like, they just got a mental health issue. They need psychiatric care. Give them some meds. 6 years ago, I would have said that. This morning, as I'm preparing this topic about, no gender identity means that the door is open, I come across a priest doing exorcisms.
Yep.
And they actually mentioned the no identity was an easy door for the demon to walk in, and that a portion of the reason for that locking us in the house was so that everybody would get a sticky pokey and it would cut down on the souls that were available to be on that side of the war.
Yes, exactly. I think I know, wait, did you see like the one where there these women who are being, in the process of deliverance speaking about that?
Yes.
Yes. Right?
And you can
See,
feel it. You can tell that when you're watching that, that is not something that is fake. I mean, you
eh,
you can watch the internal physical struggle of that woman being delivered. And if we believe the Bible, we know in the Bible that Jesus did it. And we now know that we have more power over our consciousness than we ever dreamed to believe, that the power of God is literally within us.
amen.
And when you think about, you ever seen the movie, it was kind of random that it come on this morning, The Fifth Element with Bruce Willis?
Uh-huh. I've seen it very many times. My husband
Well, we've
loves that
always
movie.
heard about the four elements. What is it? Earth, wind, fire, and water. But
Hmm.
the fifth element is human. It's DNA. It's the soul.
It's the soul. That's
It's the
correct.
soul. When you put the soul in the middle of the elements, you have the fifth element, which is the regeneration of creation. And it gives you a whole new understanding of what that sticky pokey was about, because they're trying to wipe us out because they don't want people on the good side of the war. Because this is a
Right?
war. Whether everybody realizes it or not, this is a war. It
They
is
want
happening within you, around you, in front of you.
they want to alter your original God code of the 144,000.
If and that's exactly what that poor demon possessed woman said this morning. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that makes a whole lot of sense when you put it into the graph of the other 9,000 rabbit holes I've dug down. It fits right into the spreadsheet in there.
That is something that has always been a bit of controversy within Revelations about the 144,000, because truly, I mean, even back in Jesus's day, there were more than 144,000 people. I mean, there was a great number of people. It isn't necessarily about the number of people.
Right.
It
See,
is
that
a
was always
difference.
a missed concept I had, because
Right.
my mathematical brain, I done been back and redone Bible math with cubits and everything
Right.
else. I'm a nerd. But so in my mind, I did the same thing when the 144,000 come up. I'm like, well, oh, maybe that was a percentage kind of the population at the time. I'm like, well, no, that still wouldn't have been
That's
right,
yeah.
because
If
there.
God has that much abundance of patience to wait so that not one single soul would be lost, even though we know that there will be, unfortunately, that is not say that 144,000, that number is so tiny in comparison to the population of humanity, and all that's gone and passed and already have died. That number of people, that makes no sense with everything else you read in scripture about God.
Well, but then you start thinking about the fact that we're talking about 144,000. All
Hmm.
right, we know that the two sides of the DNA is 144. We know that the highest frequency your body can resonate at is 144. So I mean, that's such a number that, you know what I mean. It all lines up too much.
Exactly.
It's all about the soul and the DNA, the fifth element. That's what your 144 is.
I mean, even the first book of the Bible pretty much tells you what this whole spiritual battle is about. Gene, genes, your genes, Genesis.
Yes. I got down that gene trail quite far, and it's been a unique one to figure out where I genetically came from, because like one of the oldest, I call them cadavers, whatever you want to call them, cave women, whatever, that they pulled DNA samples from, my genetics trace back to it. So I'm like, that makes you think about a few things, and yeah. But genetics are very important. Genetics are what run your. See, I say meat suit. Some people don't like the word meat suit because this is just a car and my soul is the driver.
I call it flesh suit. Excuse
Yeah,
me. I
flesh
call it
suit,
flesh suit. Yeah. Yep.
avatar, whatever you want to call it. Because this is just what I'm using to get through this world. It's just a car that I'm driving. Because the experience, the suffering, the struggle, the empathy, the love, my hands don't do that. You could cut my hands off and it wouldn't change who I am as a person. So, well, it would, but it wouldn't change my soul. You
Right.
know what I mean? It
Right.
wouldn't change what constitutes me as the person I am. And so this is just a car that I'm driving because I can drive a Honda or a Lamborghini to McDonald's. I'm still able to get there. So I could be in this or I could be in something else. It's all about what's inside and what's inside of us. But I really think that I'm on the trail of this 144,000 because the ancient artwork, red and blue make purple. Purple equals a frequency of 144. We have 144 in the DNA. I mean, it's the Bible is a code if you just figure out how to read it.
It's interesting too because if I mean I don't know if you know much about the whole Saturn, worship kind of
Yeah, we've
thing,
talked
which
about it some.
right. Well, the color that is associated with Saturn is purple.
That would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I blended. And guess who had on a purple tie today? He's been wearing it quite a bit on his Oval Office
Oh,
statement. Yeah,
would
he had
it
on a
would it
purple
be the
tie.
the trumpet dude?
Yeah, I've noticed his purple tie quite a few times because, like I said, I'm a connoisseur of purple. If it was up to me, I'd be in purple all the time. My keyboard's purple. Y'all seen my back wall? It's purple. I just love purple. I've loved purple since I was a little girl. I don't know what it is about it, but I love purple. Always been drawn to it. And I'm not the girliest girl in the world. So purple, I think maybe purple was a safe color because I was never a pink girl. So maybe
Right.
purple was just girly enough that nobody would accuse me of being a boy.
Pink and purple have were my favorite colors since childhood, so I liked them both. But
I
then I
love
went through a whole phase where I hated pink, so I don't know. I mean, now I just don't. I love all colors, so it's fine. But purple has always been one of my favorites. I was wondering. I'm sorry. I'm looking at Elizabeth Bergman's comment, and at the end of her comment, she asks, "Where did Dan go?" And I'm just curious. Are you talking about Daniel, or are you talking about Dan, who used to be on our show? Because unfortunately, Dan has had passed away quite some time ago, but Daniel is at home dealing with some refrigerator issues. So, just depending on which Dan you were speaking of, I hope I answered in one way or another.
We will be on tomorrow with Daniel on the
Right.
Supernatural show tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, he's about ready to kick that refrigerator. I think
Right.
it's only 2 years old and it's already started acting haywire on him,
Not fun.
which is crazy to me because there are refrigerators from the 60s and 70s that are still working fine.
Yep.
But the ones you go to one of these home supply stores and get, they got about a 2 to put. Like
I'm
literally.
a
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm about ready to find myself a washer and dryer that's old school because I'm having that issue with those.
Girl, I done
I
been through 3 sets of washers and dryers in 2 years.
Yeah, nope.
They ain't nothing about them
Unacceptable.
worked right.
Unacceptable.
And I don't and back in the day, when they first come out with the front load washing machines, I was like, "Oh, I gotta have those, put up on the pedestal." "Oh, I gotta have that." No, you can keep them things. Those things
Hmm.
stink because they mildew. They're not designed well.
No, they're
If
designed to
nobody
break down,
knows,
so you buy more stuff.
there is an agreement that was signed back in the 20s. It's the Agreement of Absolution. And it's actually come about from people who made light bulbs. Because back then, when they made light bulbs in the beginning, light bulbs didn't burn out. So if you make light bulbs and none of them ever go bad,
Well, then you're not
a
gonna
lot of
do it. You're
products
not gonna
that were
need
like
one.
that, yeah, they were made so well that they wouldn't break. So they actually all came together and made basically an agree of absolution that that our products will wear out, so they have to come back to us. And I can tell you, after 25 years in the car industry, that those cars are designed with a 36,000-mile warranty, because trust me, they've tested their product and they know that it'll make it to about 45,000 before it breaks.
Right? They've got, well, of course, because around, well, close before after that, you'll be done with your car payments. It's like
Yeah,
every time you finally own the darn thing, that's when it dies.
you're not getting out alive. That's for sure. You're not getting out alive. Not with a car
Mm-mm.
loan. Carol said Super Dave posted a video about us striking a ship out of Venezuela
Yep.
full of drugs. Yeah, the Oval Office address today said that that would be information that was coming out right after the speech. But that's one thing I did monitor over the weekend, with some military activity, and down toward Venezuela, Argentina, down in that area, they were running. Evidently, they made some big drug busts, but they claimed the beginning of the weekend the reason our ships were down in that area was a military exercise, and now today we find out they took down big boats full of drugs. So once again, they're not telling us the truth up front. And I get it. There is a certain amount of information that needs to be kept on the download, that we don't need to know everything up front, because you can't stop the bad guys if you tell them your plan. I get that. So a lot of things we just have to be patient for. But I don't know, Carol. I haven't had a chance to look into it. I saw where they were saying something about it, but I haven't had a chance to watch Super Dave's video yet.
I do know that the incident took place near the Caribbean and that there was explosions. That's about all I know. So I don't know what that means 100% yet, but
Let's see. Let me Google search it. Spell Venezuela, because I can't spell Venezuela. There we go. VEN. I see Carol's post now. Maybe she spelled it right. Oh, see there. All I had to do was put in VEN and it come right up. Let's see. U.S. military strikes drug carrying boats. Boat hailing from Venezuela. Mark Rubio said 11 people were killed in the strike, and they were members of Tren de Argua. I probably pronounced that wrong. A Venezuelan based organized crime group. They have been designated as a foreign terrorist organization. So evidently we blew them out the water. And for anybody that don't know it, that war that we have, that started uh, way back in the
mhm.
day. That's always been their means of moving money. All right, let's see what else we got from a viewer. Elizabeth Bergman, what she say? Okay, she was talking to somebody else. I was looking at, and yes, Mike, stuff that was made in the 70s is still getting it today when it comes to appliances. We have a refrigerator in our shop. We're scared to move it. Like, we're scared to move it. It was one of the first models of double door refrigerator freezers with the ice thing in the door. It belonged to Willie's grandma, and we have painted it. We got stickers all over it now because it's shop fridge. Best refrigerator, laid out well, shelves slide out. Go back and look at the refrigerators from the 40s and 50s and look at how well the inside of them was designed. as far as like how the caddies and the door work and everything. And most of those refrigerators are still kicking unless some damage has happened to them.
Question: wasn't there something about the way, like the chemicals that they had used to for the refrigeration? Um, yeah.
Oh, and the Freon, yes, we used to have R12 Freon. Then we went to 134A Freon, and I can't remember what we're on now. And the only reason I know that is from the car business, because in order to gas up the
You
air
need
conditioner in
Freon.
your truck, you used to have to put
Mhm.
R12 in it. They switched R12. Excuse me, R12 was not that expensive. Then R134A was not that expensive when it was made as a substitution. Then all of a sudden, the price of it went through
Hmm.
the roof. And like used to back in the day in the 80s and 90s, my dad was a mechanic. He had a shop in the backyard. Ain't nobody had no business license. He didn't need one because he was building hot rods. All of his buddies come over there, and he worked on them. Well, occasionally you get one of your hot rod buddies, his wife's air conditioner quit. So somebody come over and dad gassed up the air conditioner. You could do that for 25 bucks. I think as soon as some of the car market figured out that mechanics could do it, they just change it up.
It's always about making a buck.
Yeah, I watched the Ian Carroll special yesterday or this morning, and he basically has a breakdown that shows you that every corporation is owned by each other.
Yep.
Every single one of them. Everything on the grocery shelf, except for a few teeny, like mom and pop chains, are all owned by a major corporation, which is then owned and controlled by an investment firm that the other investment firms are in too. So it's like they're all in the same basket. It was wild. I'll have to send you that one from Ian. I watched it yesterday. His grocery store thing blows my mind because he'll like walk in and take a picture of the whole grocery aisle, like all the potato chips. And in that still picture, he'll color code them. Like red is this company, yellow is that company, and white is the one that's not corporately owned. You could probably go to the grocery store and $100 would buy every product in the grocery store that wasn't corporate owned
It
anymore.
reminds me of, I don't know how much you know about video games. I personally only know these things because I've watched so many people play them over the years. I'm not really big into them myself, but there's this game called uh, Resident Evil. Of course, they've made movie series out of it, but
Yes.
it's all the Umbrella Corp. Everything is under the Umbrella Corp. And the whole point of that is
Yep.
ultimate control, of course, but it's all taxes, all these things. It's all owned by one entity, but on paper, it looks like it's different. So there are rules and loopholes they
Do
can
you
get through with having ultimate control.
do you remember how Resident Evil started?
Oh
What
yeah,
happened?
a V I with an
Mm-hmm.
RS.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It was one of
that
those.
created,
Yeah.
undead issues. Yep.
That
Uh-huh.
Umbrella put out,
Which
and very, very few
which of
people were immune.
course what runs the whole thing, an AI.
And the dudes that owned the AI had bunkers 20 stories
That's
below dirt
correct.
where they were living in big style bunkers while the rest of the surface just got obliterated
Yep.
and went away.
Yep, yep,
Yep.
yep.
See, Shannon, now you done messed my mind up. I used to like Resident Evil. I used to love that movie.
Well, I watched the games being played before the movies came out, and you know, I just, even then, I was like, this is very interesting. This reminds me of our everyday. And that was way before I woke up to the truth of things.
See, now every time a movie comes on that I liked, back in the, 80s, 90s, 2000s, like movies that I really liked, like Resident Evil and Walking Dead and all those things, The Strain. I'm not a horror girl. I don't like Freddy Krueger or Jason or Michael. I don't like scary movies. But I like the ones like Resident Evil or Walking Dead. There's a storyline that goes along with the zombies and the gore. But I like special effects. I don't know if anybody out there knows it. Here's a really odd fact for you. You know, when you see like Walking Dead, you see all these people laying out there and they're supposed to be zombies and they're, blood, guts, and gore everywhere.
Oh
That's K
yeah.
Rose syrup
Yep.
with peppermint in it. Because the peppermint, they use K Rose syrup as fake internal goo, and because of its thickness and it holds up in the heat. But if you didn't put something in it, the bugs would take it in between scene takes, so they fill it full of peppermint oil. So when you see somebody laying there in a scene in a movie and they look like their inside goo come out, just they're laying there in a pile of peppermint. They're laying in a pile of peppermint,
Yeah.
folks. But yeah, it'll throw your whole perception off of movies. Like The Fifth Element, it come on this morning. I used to love that movie because I used to like Bruce Willis. I don't know if anybody else, but everybody I see come on TV now, I'm like, nope, can't watch your stuff. You're evil. Nope, can't watch your stuff. You're evil. You're one of them. I can't find anything to watch on
Yeah.
TV because they're all evil. If you drunk the Kool-Aid to get where you at, you'll say or do anything on that TV because you drunk the Kool-Aid. And because you drunk the Kool-Aid, I can't be no part of
Well,
what you are. Not your TV specials, not your movies, not
just
your
remember
t-shirts.
this too when you're thinking about this, that there are levels. There are levels of evil that these people have let in to get them at different stages. And a lot of the times when you don't see somebody who came out in a couple of things, who did, in a really big box office hit, but you don't see them
They
anymore,
wouldn't
they
drink the
didn't drink
Kool-Aid.
the Kool-Aid. And when they try to
Yep.
explain that, they end up going crazy, or something happens and they are discredited, or they're no longer with us. So
Yep.
if these actors and actresses have been in your face over and over and over and over again, and lots of big blockbuster hits and all of these things, they drink the Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah. There's two of them in particular, that come to mind about drinking the Kool-Aid and how popular they were. And they made a movie, Mr. and Mrs.
Oh,
What was it?
Mr. and
Where they were
Mrs.
both
Smith.
secret agents. Yeah,
Yep.
them two. Yeah, I want
Oh,
nothing to see that in.
mm-hmm.
Nothing.
Yep.
Nothing. You put some Bay up on my TV. I don't care if she is the queen. Don't let me walk in my house
Well,
and that's on my TV. And these other little
right.
hoochie mamas like
Mm-hmm.
Cardi and all them other ones with their junk hanging out. No, thank
Well,
you.
like the lead actress in the Mr. and Mrs. Smith movie, right? She was
Uh huh.
born into
Yeah.
this. There, again, there are those who have been quote unquote
Oh yeah.
discovered and then allow themselves to be compromised. And then there are those who have been born in it and really honestly don't know any other way. And they have
And I get
handlers
that.
around them. Oh, right, right. But those, I try to remember things like prayer
Oh,
for them, because
while we're on the
like John
Hollywood
Todd,
gossip,
right, right.
have you seen the stuff about Nicole Kidman's daughter?
No, I know all about her father. Or
Well,
its
evidently
father.
her daughter has come out and basically said that she was made to live in the basement her whole life with
Right.
like
Well,
a
again,
caretaker.
if you are familiar with um, her father, he was an Australian politician. A lot of uh, his victims have come forward as after his death, of the things that he had done to them, underage children and things along those lines. And a lot of those testimonies, you hear that Nicole was present in these situations. You know what I'm saying? And
Well,
you
and
remember
I know we've
back
had
in the day, she was married to Tom Cruise,
Cruise,
right?
which
And
was a
all of that
setup. Yeah.
situation and the whole Scientology game. So there, it's again, she was born into this. And again, I say she loosely. I kind of
Yeah.
say she and he loosely with a lot of these people, so bear that in mind. But was born into horrific things and has shown that she has carried on said abuse. You know what I
Well,
mean? This is a cyclical
and
type
we've
of
had
thing.
this conversation that I understand if you're a child that is born, if you're born into a Muslim household, you'll probably be Muslim. If you're born into a Jewish household, you'll probably be Jewish. Whatever that family practices is gonna put an impression or impart something on you. But if you're within a family that is uh how do I put this without getting banned? Worshiping the dark source down there where it's hot at, and you
Hmm.
don't know no better. That's what you're raised in. You think that's average and normal. I could see you perpetuating the the cycle. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can see you perpetuating the cycle due to ignorance
Right.
and due to coming into it young with ignorance and doing that, then you get addicted to the greed and the power. Okay, there, Troy. Hang on, Troy. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. Because I promise you, we don't say ugly stuff in here. So
Well, these things aren't a racial thing. It's an ideology, religious thing. So we're just going to throw race stuff way out the door because it doesn't matter what color you are. It's the ideology and the religious aspect of things that we're fighting against, not your skin color.
yeah, it's not got anything to do with skin color or. And I understand that there are different religions that teach different things, but if a child is brought up and taught and programmed into one family's belief system, that tends to be how they're raised and what their belief system is. And like somebody like this that was raised in that horrible life, once you get to a certain age, you're already programmed for it. And then you see the wealth and the power that comes with it. Um, so you just got to be, I don't know. I don't know if those people will ever wake up, but sadly, we have to be awake and not pay attention or follow them. No, we weren't talking about race, I don't believe. I don't think that had anything to do with
Mhm.
anything about it.
It's cultural differences. You can grow up in a culture but not be of the same skin color as said culture. That happens all the time. There have been people who have grown up. I mean, America is a very big example of
Melting pot.
this. It's a melting pot. And you can have ideology of whatever it is that you have, and that has nothing to do with the color
And
of your skin.
and this comes into a whole different conversation. Everything that that we have ever been uh programmed with is how we'll say it. Black and white and brown, red and blue, left and right, up and down, gay and straight. It is all to divide you. Read the War of Peace.
Mhm.
Divide and conquer. As long as they keep us fighting amongst ourselves, we're not worrying about what they're doing. So when everybody on this planet stops worrying about what their neighbor's skin color is and starts worrying about the moral and soul fiber of their neighbor instead of whether they're black, brown, yellow, pink, white, green, or rainbow. The color of someone's skin has nothing to do with who they are as a person. We
I
we are
just
all pink on the middle.
I
Just
just
saying, we
need
all pink in the middle.
right, I just need to set the record straight. In Genesis, it describes God creating Adam from the clay of the earth, from the earth. That is what the flesh was molded from. You go all around the world and you see all of these different shades of clay of the earth, and they all match up to every single skin color available on this planet.
Well, and just so you know, Troy, you can call me nuts all you want to, honey. I'm proud to be called nuts. I like it. I like it a lot. Like it a lot.
Yeah, we're
I got
all different.
certificates. I do. I got certificates. I mean, I got all kind of things. But thank you for
Again,
joining us.
right?
Nobody's trying to call you out. We just don't be ugly
No,
here, and we don't
right.
argue. And we love everybody. Like I said, it don't matter whether you pink, purple, green,
Everyone.
or yellow, honey. Muslim, Christian, we all here to learn something from each other and be better people for it.
And just remember this, you're never gonna survive unless you get a little crazy.
I love crazy. I love
Right?
my crazy. Let me tell you, you want to know who people don't mess with? Crazy people.
Yep.
Don't come messing with me because I'm crazy. Because they know I'm crazy. Because if you come to my house and you act a fool, ask some of them. We're going to get crazy. Because I'm going to drag you right on up out of my house and out of my yard. Because I'm not going to tolerate people of a low vibe. I'm just not. Everything about you and your soul and who you are and your being and who you are to other people is all about your vibration and your frequency. And if you don't believe me, go research it, folks. When
And just so you know, that can be altered, that can be changed. And you are very, very capable of raising your vibration and, accepting the Holy Spirit within your being. That's a
go re
choice.
if you've never researched other religions and you daggone right certifiable, Trish, girl, I had my certification at an early age. I had me a 36-hour stretch with one of them straight jackets as a teenager because my mama said I was uncontrollable. Imagine that. Anyway, but if you go and research other religions and how they feel about frequency, you will see more religions and about the vibe and the frequency. This is why cathedrals were built the way they were. And it just, it's all about frequency, the frequency within you. If there's another person on this earth, if you take a voltage meter and you go out and you stand at the ground and you check yourself and then you check the other person, then you check it with the two of you touching, your frequency will level out. This is one of the big reasons why it is important to find the correct partner in life. Man, woman, whatever it is, whatever your partner is in life, if you were of the same frequency. And I honestly believe this is why people start out young with one person because their frequencies match. As we change as people, your frequency doesn't match anymore. So not every relationship's going to last forever. I was in a 27-year marriage. It didn't last forever. Our vibe changed. We weren't the same people anymore. Stuff happens.
Well, that can also be said too with animals. This is one of the biggest drives in the human spirit in wanting pets and taking care of animals, because their frequency is very connected to God, to the high power of the heavens. And when they lay upon you and they know that you're sad or not feeling well, you automatically feel better. There's an energy exchange where they're leveling out your frequencies and giving you that love from God that's within them and their
This
frequency.
this is why the bells are missing. This is why they no longer use cotton and linen in hospitals. The frequency of cotton and linen don't inhibit the frequency of your body. Polyester does. And look at every single bed sheet and every piece of clothes just about it that we put on our body, rubber shoes on our feet. Everything around us is plastic and synthetic and it's screwing up your vibe. I believe this is why people was walking around with a leaf on because they had a good vibe. But I mean, it is what it is. Everything in this world has been engineered against us to screw up our frequency and our vibe, as you want to call it. But if you want to get to the 144, I think you got to figure out how to purify that signal. And that comes with inner thought and meditation and manifestation of positive outcomes in the future. If you want something to happen in the future, if you want a new job, see yourself in that new job. See yourself in your mind. See yourself in the car, getting in the car, dressed, going to that new job, making more money. You want a different house? See yourself in that house. See yourself signing the papers and keep seeing it over and over and over again. And that's what you call changing your frequency.
Right. And also having the faith that you know that God is going to give that to you. If it is his will, of course,
Yes.
but here's the thing. It's like there is a passage, I do not quote scripture word for word all the time. I'm not that guy. I try. Okay. But there is a scripture that talks about God saying, why do you worry about what you're going to eat, or where this money is going to come from, or all these everyday stresses that we boggle ourselves down with every day in fear of not being able to survive. And he comments, do the birds worry about this? Do these animals over here worry about how they're going to survive? They already know that God is providing it for them, and that it will be okay. That is not a stress that is upon them. And we have to remember, sometimes we get so caught up and so worried. I do the same thing. I am not an exception in this, okay? But we all have a tendency to boggle ourselves down with so much stress of worrying about, how am I going to pay that bill? How am I going to feed my kids? How am I going to do this? Instead of knowing, walking in the knowing that God has got you, that you will
Absolutely.
be provided for.
And that is the difference in fear based versus a high frequency based. Because if you're fearful of how you're going to do it and you're sitting around stressing it, you're dragging your frequency right on down. The higher that frequency, the higher you are to source. And instead of worrying about how it's going to happen, see it happening, see the solution, see yourself in that solution, and that everything is okay. And I promise you, it will make a major difference in your life. If you resonate abundance, you will have abundance. If you resonate love, you will have love. You remember as children and young adults, we were told what you put out, you get back, that it's like a boomerang.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. What you put out, you get back. If you put out hate and fear mongering, that's what you're going to get back. It's going to give you back a low vibe. The world is your return. So if you put out love, you're going to get love. You put out good vibes, you're going to get vibes.
The
So,
same thing with what you put in too, because remember
yeah,
that saying of, you are what you eat.
that's right. Absolutely. You are what you eat and you are what you put out. If you love people, they'll love you. If you give them honesty and respect, that's what they'll give you back. And if they don't, then you know that person is not for you. It's just that simple. There are some people in life that are not for us. And go back and look at, blood and water, that verse in the Bible, and read the whole verse. You've always heard blood's thicker than water. I beseech you all to actually go read that verse. That is not what it says. That an agreement can be stronger than the water of the womb, which tells you that just because you are biologically related to somebody does not mean you have to forgive, not necessarily forgive, but forget their trespasses against you. You are supposed to forgive everybody. Forgiving somebody is not for them, that's for you. That's to
Right.
clear your thing. As long as I forgive you, I'm not harboring any vengeance or hate or any of that. You go do you. I don't have to let you back into my sphere, but you go do you. We all good. Just move along. But I guess we're gonna have to end this because I know you've got things to do tonight, and we've been at this about an hour and a half. I swear, Shannon, me and you can get on the air and look up, and I'm like, oh man, we were gonna keep this to an hour, and we're at an hour and a half.
That's
Now I know why
okay.
Daniel doesn't want to be on Tuesdays. He probably wouldn't get a word in edgewise.
Well, it's okay. I mean, he usually
It's
does
girl
get
time.
all his words in. So
Yeah, he gets all the words in. This is
He gets
girl
all
time. We
his
actually get to talk on Tuesday. But everybody, we got to go back to our life now. Thank you for joining us. Tomorrow we will be on tomorrow afternoon. I'm projecting probably 2 or 3 o'clock with Daniel. Are you gonna be with us tomorrow, Shannon?
No,
Or you got to work?
unfortunately, yeah, tomorrow and Friday I am not going to be here, but I will be back next Monday.
And thank you all for coming. Thank you, Mike, as always being our awesome moderator. Trish and Carol and Mama Rages, all of our regular ladies were in here. Joe was in here. Cash, everybody. Thank you so much. If I miss saying hey, we're sorry, but we love you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.